friends. Welcome to the Putting You Back Together Again show. I'm Rochelle Booker, aka Coach Ro.
And I'm CJ, CEEJAY, her part-time, feels like full-time co-host. And I'm back in the building, y'all.
Glad to have you back.
Yes.
So today we are talking about situationships.
Ooh.
It's complicated. Yes, and this is part 3 of our Hot Summer Love series.
Hot summer love, y'all.
Yes. So what are situationships? I'm glad you asked. The main definition is a romantic or intimate connection that mirrors a relationship but lacks commitment. And it causes a lot of confusion, chaos, and pain. You can imagine that, right? And situationships are undefined entanglements that falls in between a defined relationship and a casual dating situation. And it's becoming more and more common as people start dating on the dating apps and online dating. So we're finding more and more people getting entangled in these types of situations.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So, and we also see more of that because of the casual hookup culture.
Oh, the apps where you just either swipe left or right,
yes,
up or down.
Yeah, up or down, left or right.
Diagonally.
That's right. That of course you know nothing about.
I do not.
So it's so situationships. It's a really gray area. So speaking of the 50 Shades of Gray. So we're about to jump into that and talk more about it.
Yes. Well, I know Coach Ro just gave the definition. But the definition that I discovered was situationships can be defined as romantic relationships with no clarity or label. They might include affection, sexual behaviors, and spending time together, but also involve low levels of commitment.
That's right.
Put simply, situationships is essentially a relationship without any commitment.
That's right.
Zero. Nil.
So how do you know if you are in a relationship, in a situationship? So I've got 5 key signs that will basically tell you that's what it is. So back to your point, there are no labels or exclusivity.
Right.
So if you're dating someone and he or she is saying, oh, let's not put a label on it, let's not call it anything, let's just keep it flowing the way it's flowing, no exclusivity, chances are it's a situationship.
That's when your spidey senses start to tingle. Okay?
That's right.
It's just something in your heart should start to tingle like, oh, do I want to go down this road?
That's right.
Or do I not want to go down this road?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And another thing is they're very superficial. So the contact is very superficial and it's not consistent. So that person kind of goes in and out.
On their schedule.
Yes, on their schedule.
Yeah, on their
when it's
schedule.
Convenient for them.
But now, to be clear, both parties could enter the agreement, right?
That's right.
It may not be just a one-sided type of a thing. It could be both agreeing to say, you know what, let's just see where things go.
And that's how it usually starts.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times it will wind up evolving into a situationship because one person wants more out of the relationship and the other person wants to keep going the way it's been going. So
that's when the heart gets involved.
Yes, feelings get involved, emotions get involved, and that's where you really have to talk about things and communicate.
Yeah. That's when the heart starts singing that old country twang. Don't break my heart, my achy breaky heart. I don't think Daddy under situationship.
That's right. Or your boo might be drinking a tall glass of whiskey, Tennessee whiskey song and singing that. I mean, hey, because it does cause heartache and pain and emotional distress.
It can.
It really can lead to that.
Now, I know you had your 5 points, but let me chime in.
Go ahead.
One of the signs also that you could be in a situationship. Well, before we even dive into that, first and foremost, we pray and hope that everyone that is listening to us have been safe from Sister Beryl right?
Mhm.
We went through a treacherous storm last week, and we pray that you have power and are getting back to some sense of normalcy. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, as we get more mature in life,
What's on your mind? Yes.
all of these terms and
I know.
labels, we didn't have this back in the day.
We sure did.
Now, maybe it was the type of situation, but it was not a label.
We
that
didn't
I can
call it
think of,
that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's amazing how, as we continue to evolve in this thing called life,
Mhm.
that these labels start to come up.
I know.
But one of the issues, or the things that could tell you that you're in a situationship,
Mhm.
is things don't progress.
That's right.
They're just humming right along,
Stagnant.
and that may be okay for two people.
Yeah.
Or someone may develop feelings.
That's
where it
right.
gets a little complicated.
Yes, that's where
Yeah.
it gets complicated. Because then what do?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make that decision. Are you going to keep, staying in this relationship and dealing with it, or are you going to be honest with that person and say, "Hey, my feelings are growing, and I want more."
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, because some people are afraid to, because then they feel they're going to become vulnerable, and that person may not like the direction
Right.
of the relationship,
Right,
and
right,
changing
right.
the direction,
Mhm.
and that may push them away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they may not want a relationship
That's right.
from that situationship.
They want to stay in it, yeah,
Right.
because that's what works for them.
That's what
But if
works for
it's
them.
not mutually beneficial, there's a problem.
Well, I mean, and that could be a problem for in a relationship as well.
Yeah, there
Because
can be.
Yeah, because and we're probably jumping ahead just a tad bit, but you can get involved in a relationship and things are humming along.
Yeah, then all
And
of a
then
sudden.
all of a sudden,
Yeah,
whoa, 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 whoa.
that's right.
Oh,
Well,
something
that's
changes.
right. Something changes, something that you
Yeah.
didn't anticipate, and that's why it's important to continue to have that open dialogue, open
Yes.
communication. But speaking of that, and that's why also you have to establish clear boundaries,
Mhm.
even in relationships. But situationships usually lack any type of boundaries.
Well, they may have some boundaries, but they are loose.
Yeah, yeah. So and so then there's no line crossing.
Yeah.
So you can't really, be in your feelings about it, because there were no established boundaries to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Well, if you're just joining us, we are talking about situationships. This is part of our Hot Summer Love series, part 3. It's complicated.
Yes.
If you've been in a situationship or are currently in a situationship, give us a call at 832-560-2885 to tell us all about it.
Yes, we want to hear about it. And again, this is a safe space, so we're not
Yes.
going to judge you.
Yes.
Judge not, lest you be judged.
Yes, yeah. This is your safe zone.
Yes.
It's just you and us. That's it. Nobody else. Just you and us.
Yeah. Yes. And the other sign that you know you're in a situationship is lack of integration in each other's lives.
I had that on my list too.
You're a spare tire. You're not. Yeah. Basically, he's keeping you in the trunk, or she's keeping you in the trunk just whenever she needs you, or he needs you, and pulls you out, puts you on, takes you back off. So, is that something that you really feel comfortable with? Is that something that you really want to keep going along with? If so, we want to hear from you, because
Yes.
we want to know how that gives you emotional comfort.
Exactly. And really, Coach Rowe, some people may not be in it for the emotional comfort.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's many sides to this particular.
That's
call,
right. They're in it
right?
for a booty call.
For a booty call, and maybe
Yeah.
just maybe getting over a relationship.
Yeah.
And they're not ready to commit, and they just want to be in a situationship, because they could be, I won't say mourning, but basically getting over from a long committed relationship as well.
And they're in a rebound thing.
Right. And may not want to be in a committed relationship, so they may be okay with it. Right.
And that's let the other person know how you really feel. We've got a call in.
I'm calling.
Hi, caller. Thank you
Yo.
for calling into the Putting You Back Together Again show.
Yes.
Who are we speaking to?
This is Manny. Hi.
Hey,
Hey,
Manny, how
Manny.
you doing?
I just want to answer that question you just said
Yes.
about booty call. Because sometimes,
Who decided you?
let me take it out. All right. Sometimes you could be in a relationship, but you're not in a booty call. Why don't we say, okay, my friend was in a relationship, okay?
Yeah.
And then it was something, because sometimes she was going to a divorce, and then she needed a comfort. Let's say she needed somebody to talk to get it out. Because if you finish a relationship and you jump to another relationship without being already healed,
Right.
guess what? You taking all this baggage
Yes.
into that new relationship.
That's
Great
right.
point, Manny.
Yes. And we have too many
Okay.
bag ladies.
I'm in a relationship with someone. Okay, how can you say God loves you without even seeing God? You could be in a relationship without being physically with that person.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, because relationships come in all forms and
It
sizes
could
and
just be
shapes, right?
emotional, mental.
Right,
yeah,
exactly. It could be emotional, spiritual,
Mhm.
right? You may have a spiritual relationship with someone, and it has nothing to do with emotions or physicality or anything like
That's
that.
right.
So yeah, you bring up a great point. There are different.
You,
Go ahead.
you
Talk to us.
okay. I could, my friend said she was starting that relationship in a spiritual, mentally, and like respect. Try to know the person. You try to know the person first and
Right.
try to get to that person's heart before you can be physically in that relationship.
For the intimacy and romance. Yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah, if you're looking for a relationship, yes.
That's right.
However, comma.
If you're looking for a situationship, the rules are different.
The rules are different.
Yes.
The rules are different. Now, Manny.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe when she told me that, I believe in a relationship. You can be like on a distance relationship before you really know that person. Now that's what I say, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Now you can go and know that person before you know that person, because sometimes you gotta watch the person too before you get to. When your heart is on it, it's hard for your heart to get out of it.
Yes. Now, Manny,
What do you guys think?
I want to ask you this, Manny. Have you been in a situationship yourself?
Yeah, I could say that. Yes.
And how was it, and how did it end?
Okay. Well, I could say not really relationship, because I was married for some time, a long time. But when you start, when you went through a divorce and you don't want to start a new relationship until, for it depends how long you was married, because they said for every year you was married for so long, it has to take you at least 5 years or to 10 years before you get in a serious relationship for it to last.
Wow.
So if you go to a relationship so quick, it's like a rebound. Every time you think about the past or something the ex did to you, guess what? You go back where you just started.
Yeah.
All the anger and you bring into that new relationship.
Yeah, and you contaminate it. Yeah, good point. Thank you for that, Manny. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling in. We appreciate you tuning in. Tell your neighbor, tell your friend.
Yeah, love you.
All right.
We'll be back together again.
Love you. Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Now, another thing too, that was a great call.
It was a great call. Great insight.
But let me address something that she said.
Yeah.
For every year of marriage,
yes,
it takes 5 to
10 years before you jump into a serious relationship.
No one will be in a relationship if that was the case.
Well, I think too and that's different for everyone. It takes some people longer than others to heal.
Well, yeah.
But in the healing process is different for everyone because it could take someone 3 years to heal, another person maybe a year. So I'm not sure that equation, I don't know if it's a general rule for everyone, but you got people who jump every 6 months to a relationship. Now I don't agree with that either. Some people just don't like to be by themselves, let's face
That's
it.
true.
And they
That's
have
true.
to just always be with someone because there's that codependency.
Yeah, I mean,
that they have.
loneliness is a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to cope with it, I mean, that's
Yeah.
another
That's
show,
a whole nother show, coping
by,
skills.
by
Yeah.
itself, right? But yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time. Now, I don't have to be clear. I don't have what the barometer is
Yeah.
to wait after you've been divorced to get
Yeah.
into a relationship because again, everyone is different.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to do is, however that relationship of divorce ended,
That's
you don't
right.
want to carry that
Baggage.
that negative baggage
Yes.
into the next relationship because you have to give that next relationship a chance.
That's right.
Right? You have to get a clean slate.
That's right.
Right? To
Yeah.
develop some new baggage.
Yeah. And you have to heal, and part of healing is forgiveness.
Yes.
You have to forgive that person that hurt you.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
every man and woman that you meet, if you don't, you're going to blame that new person, that next person for everything the other person did to you. And that's not fair to the new person that's in your life. So you got to be careful with that. And that means if you find yourself doing that, that means you are not completely healed.
Yeah. And you know what, Coach Rowe?
Mhm.
Some people may not be completely,
That's
may
true.
never be completely healed, right?
Yeah.
You just have to, again, cope with with that healing process, but really fight to not bring that into the next relationship.
Yeah.
You really want to give that person, that new person, your new partner, a real shot. Now, one of the things that's another sign that you may be in a situationship, and we're going to discuss some resolutions as well, because this is putting you back
Yes.
together.
We got to put you back together again. Better than you were before.
Yes. So another item or a sign is that you don't actually go on dates where the person just comes over,
Hangs out,
eat the groceries, whatever groceries that may be.
drink your liquor, watch your TV.
Yeah, and I can think back in my day, in my younger years, that I had a situationship. Didn't call it a situationship, but it was just what it was. Didn't want to go out, and we went to a movie one time.
Right. So then you start to feel like you're hidden. And
she was.
Yeah, see, she was. And that was intentional.
Yeah.
Because there was some intentionality with that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what was the reason you did that? You just weren't in love with her? You didn't want
clearly not.
You didn't want a relationship?
Clearly not. No. I just wanted someone for a moment when I wanted that person.
Well, it's not really clear to our audience, so that's why we want to talk about it, because you can also say that you're in love with someone, and some people just don't like to go out and do anything.
Well, no, this was not a love affair.
That wasn't that. Okay.
No, this was
we
not
just want to get some
love
clarity.
Affair.
Okay.
No.
Because I know people who are married and they do absolutely nothing. They stay in the house all day. That doesn't mean they don't love each other. They just don't.
Well, but that's
fun.
That's different, because then they get into a track of monotony where they don't want to mix things up. And again, that can be another show all by itself, right? And you want to keep things as fresh as you possibly can. We know life be lifing, and you have, work responsibilities, and sometimes children responsibilities, other responsibilities outside of the household, whether it's church or a sorority or a fraternity.
But it's about what you make a priority. So if the
this is true.
relationship, that other person is a priority to you, then you will make the time. You make time for the things that you want to make time for.
Well, I mean, that's easier said than done.
Well,
that's easier said than done.
You got to put that into practice, because if not, it does weigh on the relationship and cause issues.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, that's easier said than done when you're in the moment with those two people, right? And they may not see it that way, but hopefully there are more that do take the time and be intentional with making sure the relationship is not just being monotonous and stagnant
Mhm.
than those who just fall into a rut.
Yeah, you fall into a rut, and
Yeah.
then that drags down a
That
relationship.
drags down relationship.
And then what can happen is that other person may start looking for something else that will excite them. Then you start looking at infidelity. So that's a whole nother show too.
Well, that goes, I think his name was Percy Sledge. And correct me if I'm wrong, my body is here with you.
But my mind is
But
on
my
the other side
mind
of
is
town.
on the other
It's
side of town.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yes.
not with you.
That's
So,
right.
Again, that's a whole other
It
show.
sure is. Because
So-
see, yeah, if you only have his body or her body and don't have his or her heart and mind, you got problems.
That can be a problem.
Sure
That
can.
be a problem.
Yeah.
Yes. What else we got?
Well, and it kind of ties to what you just said, the fifth point about the signs of a situationship. The relationship doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't
Right.
grow, and it doesn't end. So there's no real beginning or end. It's not going anywhere. It's just
Right.
something you got hooked up in, and it's not progressing. There's no clear boundaries or any clarity about a future. What does the future look like? And I don't know how many people are good with that, but I'm all about planning for a future, whether it's in a relationship or, whatever I'm dealing with.
And part of that,
not
I
going day to
believe,
day.
is being equally yoked on so many certain levels, right? Because you can have your different thoughts, your different ways, different mindsets, but you also have to have some sort of equal yokeness in the relationship. But those also have to be some sort of compromise too, right? And understanding. So yeah. Another thing is a sign that you may be in a situationship is that the convention is superficial, where it's just surface level. There are no. We talked about feelings involved. There are no heartfelt feelings. And again, if that's okay with you, with both parties, then great. But then it becomes a situationship when the other wants some more than what they're receiving.
Yeah, it does become complicated. So how do you untangle that situation? That's because the downside of it does become one-sidedness. It does. Yeah. When one person wants more than the other. But they were like, well, wait a minute, you were okay with this in the beginning, but things change when you start having romance. And hey, let's just be honest, we're on the Real Talk radio show, right? You start making that emotional investment. Feelings grow. You want more. You want more than you wanted, when it first started.
Yeah. You see, things get complicated when the feelings get involved.
That's right.
But then when they do get involved, you have to make sure you express that. Because if you don't, it will just lead down a rabbit hole that you may not want to go.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're talking about situationships. We thank Manny for calling in. If you have had a situationship or in a current situationship, give us a call at 832-560-2885 on Putting You Back Together again on Real Talk Radio 100.
Yes. Or send us some chats, some comments. We want to
chats.
read about it, hear about it.
Absolutely.
Another downside is that you start feeling undervalued by that other person. You feel like you're being used. So back
Used
to
with the goodies.
That's right. The goodies. That's right. The nookie.
And you know what? Now I wasn't gonna go there this
that's
time.
what it is.
But the goodies could also mean other things, like cooking.
Yeah.
Right. And it could not just for the woman, but also for the man. Maybe the woman likes the man's cooking.
Yeah.
Or maybe he likes her cooking. Maybe he likes this stimulating conversation that he doesn't get or she doesn't get with other relationships that she's involved in. Because that's also important too, to have that mind stimulated, right? That's very, very important, I believe.
Yep. And I think it needs to be mind, body, spirit, all of that. I think it needs to be holistic too.
MBS, mind, body, and spirit.
Yes. So a holistic approach to that. So if you're feeling undervalued, You need to reevaluate, your next move with that other person, because you don't want to be used, whether it's cooking, sex, or whatever. And dishonesty.
Well,
there's a lot of that. Someone's saying one thing, but their actions are not lining up to what they're telling you.
Talking outside of your neck.
That's right. Talking out of both sides of your mouth. Come on now. And also there's a term called breadcrumbing. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Yes, that means they are just stringing you along.
Oh. They just dropping the bread.
That's right. That's so you can follow along. So they breadcrumbing. So they really don't have any intentions of moving things forward with you, but they want to give you that the sort of vision that that's what they want. That's really not what's in their heart. So they're leading you along. They're misleading you.
And so that breadcrumbing has nothing to do with the scriptures in the Bible.
No, not at all. Not at all. So be careful, because if they're not following through with what you're expecting them to do, that's a red flag. Don't ignore the red flags. Yeah.
Another sign is plans are inconsistent and not planned in advance.
Yeah, that's right.
They just want to move on their own schedule, right? And have those breadcrumbs, so you can just follow them along.
That's right. And sometimes when they do that, they become manipulative. They can be very manipulative. So you got to be careful with that.
What's the word? There's a narcissistic.
Yes. Narcissists are very manipulative and controlling. So they're starting to control the whole dynamics of that relationship. Exactly.
And be careful when you notice signs of narcissism. Be careful.
Red flag. You better run the other way.
Spidey senses tingling.
Yes. And your spiritual discernment. God is trying to tell you something. Come on. Use that discernment that you have.
Well, listen, good people. We are having a great conversation about situationships. It's complicated. Part of our Hot Summer Love series, part 3. However, we gotta pay the bills. So we have a phenomenal sponsor that our producer Malcolm is going to drop for you folks right now.
See you in 60 seconds.
In the world of law, there are no shortage of lawyers, but one that you can trust, that list is short. The law office of Evelyn Gordon is one such lawyer that you can put your trust in. Ms. Gordon has over 20 years of experience in the legal field and over 14 plus years as a practicing attorney in family, estate planning, and probate, guardianship, and appeals. Her care, compassion, and concern for her clients is unrivaled, and her team is dutifully dedicated because your family matters to them. Her litigation and trial practice experience are expansive, and with the complexities of estate planning, her level of comprehension is profound. One such client states, quote, "Perhaps the most effective attorney in the city, as my case appeared to be hopeless, but she won." Close quote. To have the law office of Evelyn Gordon on your side, please contact her office at 713-489-3397, where your family matters to them.
Welcome back to the Putting You Back Together Again show on Real Talk Radio 100. And don't forget, Attorney Gordon, she actually provides complimentary phone consultations as well to help you put you back together again.
Yes, so give her a call.
Give her a call. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, well, now I want to pivot to the reasons why people get into these situationships. But I want to ask you, there's another term that I know you're probably familiar with too. We all are. Friends with benefits.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
So it's pretty much the same concept. That's what it seems like. Okay.
Yes, that's basically what it was.
That's what you were saying about
with a benefit.
Right. Right. And you were just hanging out at her house and
No.
No. The one you just told us about.
Yeah. Not at her house.
Oh, your house.
Yeah.
Oh, she came to your place. Oh, in your space.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, mind you, people, this is many.
Oh, yeah. This was like 3 decades ago.
Yeah.
Plus.
At least.
Yeah.
Probably 50.
50 decades. Did you start when you were 5?
Hey, I'm Joseph.
Or is it Joseph or H.O. Joseph?
Oh no, don't smear the
Joseph.
name. Don't smear the name. Don't smear the family name.
We won't do that.
Yes. But that's what it was. Friends with benefits.
See, okay.
That's what it was back in the day. And somehow, some way,
it changed to this,
it changed to
which is a blend of
situationships.
relationships and situations. I guess because now it's more complicated than maybe it was with the friends.
I mean,
benefits,
anytime you get your
yeah.
feelings involved, it
yeah.
is going to get muddied.
It's gonna hurt. Yes,
It's going to get muddied.
it is.
And your feet or your shoes will get muddied, and then it just starts from a point of, how do you get out of this?
Yeah.
And how did I get into it in the first place?
And that goes to once we're going to talk about, and then the patterns. If you continue to make these same decisions, why are you continuing to see the same patterns of this? You jump from one to the next saying you don't like it, but then you end up in the same type of situation. So why people get into it? And speaking of getting your feet muddy, I think in situationships, it's almost like being on someone's dirt bike. And they're just driving you through the mud, and you are getting muddy and dirty and all of that.
That gave me a vivid picture of when I was a kid. When you would roll through some dirt or some water, the kickback from the tire would spin up and put the dirt on you. So you're not touching it initially,
but it's splattering on you.
But it's splattering on you.
Oh, yes.
So that kickback can be dirty.
Very dirty.
Dirty.
Yes. So why do people get into it? Well, we're going to go to a quick comment here on Instagram.
Who is this?
Let me
be your
inspiration. I married my friend with benefits.
Okay, well, and so let me be your inspiration. Can you call in at 832-560-2885? Let's expound on this.
Yeah, because that was a happy ending. So we
yeah. I guess a lot of happy endings.
Yes, a lot. That's right. Till death do us part. Yeah. Normally you don't see that with the friends with benefits. A lot of times people will just ghost you and just kind of move on and fade. The fade away thing. They just fade away.
Yeah.
So, and then people get into it because guess what? There's less pressure in a situationship than in a commitment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't have expectations.
Yeah.
That's the key word, because when you're in a relationship, you're expected to do A, B, C, D, or E.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're expected to go out on a date. You're expected to do new and fresh things. You're expected
to meet your family.
To meet the family at some point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are levels of expectations when in a relationship, to be sure, and that's quite all right. That's quite all right. But however, if you are not looking to have those expectations, don't be in a relationship.
Yeah. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And a situationship may be well suited for you.
Yeah, at the time. But you also have to make sure that other person is good with it and you are communicating clearly of what you are looking for.
Communication is always the foundation.
Yes.
Always the foundation. Even if it may not sound like it's important to him or her, still express it.
And be honest and be genuine and sincere. Because don't do the breadcrumbing that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Don't just string someone along and mislead people. That's not good.
No,
that's not good.
No.
So you treat people the way that you'd like to be treated.
Yeah, with decency and
respect. RESPECT. Come on.
Thank you. Oh, we got
caller. Hi, caller. Thanks for calling into the Putting You Back Together Again show. Who are we talking with?
This is Angela. How you guys doing?
Hey, Angela. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you? We're doing better now that you called in.
Yes.
This is Let Me Be Your Inspiration.
Hi, Angela.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Malcolm, for that.
Yeah. So what's on your mind? Talk to us. So you married your friend with benefits.
Yeah.
Yes. So initially, when me and Robert met, I was still married, but we were already separated.
Okay.
And so yeah, he was my friends with benefits, and I mean, the one thing that I will always say is that I made it absolutely clear to him that at the moment that I was not ready for a relationship.
Right.
I was just looking to have fun and just do me and him do him. But I did tell him, like, hey, we're going to be friends with benefits, but we got to be exclusive because I'm not going to be fighting females in the street. That's not happening. That's not my style.
Right.
I'm too old and this is not happening.
So you
But,
go ahead.
oh, what I was going to say, but it was so funny because I had a male, like, you know, like your male husband at work. My work husband.
Husband.
Right. And I would tell him, like, you know, just different things about Robert, like, you know, just like, oh, you know, we went here, we did this. And I would just tell him, like, I picked up on these little red flags. What do you think? And the one thing that I called him out on was that he would always call me sweetheart. And I was like, oh my God, he always calls me sweetheart. And my work husband was like, you know why he calls you sweetheart? And I was like, why? He said that way he doesn't have to remember who, like, your name. Like, he does, like, whoever he's talking to, he doesn't have to remember your name. He calls all his girls sweetheart. Do you know I called him out on that?
And what did he say?
I told him, don't you call me sweetheart no more. You better call me something else. You better call me my first name.
Say my,
I was like,
say my name. Say my name.
Yeah, not anymore.
Good for you.
So I started peeping game through my work husband telling me, like, little red flags that I would kind of pick up on. And I would just kind of, like, you know, just kind of tell him, like, just stuff that was going on within the relationship. And I remember Robert was so cute because I was like, you know, I would always tell him, like, you don't introduce me to any of your friends. But mind you, appreciate it. You know, at the time we were like not together, but together kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, you never introduced me to any of your friends and da-da-da. And he's like, oh, you know, my friends are always busy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay.
Red flags, yeah.
Red flag, because I was like, oh, okay.
So now,
and then my favorite conversation with him one day was, he was like, you can't be married and be my girlfriend. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. He's like, he said something like, that's a sin or something. I said, so it's premarital sex, but I don't see you stopping.
Oh, there you go.
it was too good to let go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was funny because once I started calling him out on his little red flags, he was like, okay, she's a smart one. I think I'm going to keep her.
She's a keeper.
You start retracting. So you established the boundaries before the relationship started, which was a key for the relationship, because that let things in the open. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I didn't want him to feel like I was leading him on, and I didn't want to be led on, right? Because I was like, look, if I start off letting you know, like, hey, this is just us having fun. I don't want anything serious.
Right.
Like, I want to be able to go. I don't want to ask for permission to do whatever I want to do. Because, like I said, I was newly separated from my husband of 23 years. So I'd been 23 years since the last time I was single.
Wow. So you needed some time to heal and process all of that.
Right.
So, and you know, according to Manny, if she had waited 5 to 10 years per year, you would have never been married.
Like 20 years. Well, that's good for you that you, you know, that you put down the boundaries and you laid all of that out up front in the beginning. And either he can accept it, either that person can accept it or not.
Accept it or not. Now, and you're hitting on my question here. When you actually put that boundary communication to him, how did Robert accept that at the time? Was he receptive to it, or did he have a pushback?
Come on, he was sleeping with a married woman. To him, he was like, "Oh shit!" Like
he was getting the goodies and everything else.
Yes, he was like, you know, he was like, oh, he's like, I get to have the female that's already in wife mode. Because you think about it, it's hard for you to transition from being a wife into a single person. Like, it takes a little bit. So I was still in wifey, mentality. It was so he was like, oh shit, she cooks, she cleans, she washes clothes, she does everything that a wifey would do. but we're not. We're not in. We're playing house basically.
Essentially, he was getting the milk without buying
The cow.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, you're not a cow, but
You're
you
not
know
a
what you're
cow.
saying.
But without buying
Yeah.
the carton,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So back to
Yeah. So it like I said, like so he was like, oh, like because I cooked every day. And I still do. I cook. Robert gets breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Every day.
Wow. He's not going
Robert,
anywhere. Yeah.
Robert called a good one.
You're a keeper. You're a keeper. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So he knew from the get, like, oh shit, and so getting myself out of that wifey mode, like I had to like take a step back and be like, yo, like, and I told him because it was that transitional area where I wanted to be single, but at the same time I didn't know how to be single, so it was like I didn't know what to do, but I knew that in my heart I was like, I've always been that type of person that always wants to take care of somebody. That I feel like that's kind of like that was like my role at the moment, was I had to take care of somebody.
Right.
And I think too, because of the relationship that I was in, and of course towards the end it was a lot of battles and a lot of arguing and a lot of not seeing eye to eye to a lot of things. The fights that we were having were so insignificant and stupid, and that it just got to the point where you had to make a choice. Either you were gonna stay or you were gonna go. There was no middle ground at that point.
Because then it starts to wear on you mentally. Your mental health is declining.
Right. Yeah, because it really did start affecting my mental health. Like I was starting to get depressed. I started to get like mentally I wasn't in a happy place, and I was already like in my mind I was like, like you start having those thoughts in your head, like, what am I doing here? Like what am I accomplishing? And I've told a lot of people this before, like a lot of the reason why I stayed towards the end was because it was pride. When you come from a Hispanic Mexican family, it's like in my mind I was like, oh no, I can't separate or get a divorce because what are they going to say? And as it is, I always felt like I was the black sheep in the family, and I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove that I was able to at least accomplish something that to say, oh, I stayed married for X amount of years.
Right.
But then towards the end, I couldn't handle it anymore. It was taking a toll on me mentally.
Well, let's end this on a happy note. How long have you and Robert been married?
Me and Robert have been married for 4 years, but we've been together for 8.
Oh, that is awesome. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm glad that ended so very well, and not ended so very well, but continues to be so very well for you both. Can continue to be in love and be blessed.
Thank you.
Oh yes, I love my boo. I love my pookie babe. He's so cute.
And we love you. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Take care, sweetie.
Take care.
I'll be listening in. We'll talk soon.
All righty.
Okay. Bye.
I'm tuned in. So who's that?
Unsugarcoated
Plug and Tea Talk Show. Oh, well, thank you for tuning in. Yes.
Yeah, thank
we
you for
appreciate
tuning in.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about, we're talking about tips and what have you.
Yes.
What are tips you
well, and the other thing is I was going to mention why people get into it is exhaustion from relationships and commitments. People are like, I've done this 2 or 3 times. I'm just exhausted.
Over it.
Yes, over it. So I just want it's blowing up.
Jumping.
Hi, thank you for calling and putting them back together again show. Who are we talking to?
Yes.
Okay, it's Manny again. I want to clear. I'll get myself clear. When I said, okay, I was married for 20-some, like she just said. I said, it's 5 years for those 10 years. You got it now?
Yeah.
Every 10 years,
5 years.
Wait. Say, then go and get to yourself.
Okay.
For 20 years, it's, it's 10.
Yeah. Thank you.
But like you said, it depends of the person. Because when I got to that point, I said, won't be staying single for 6 months. Okay, because I want, 'cause I love that married thing. I don't want to be single. Like I said, it was a tattoo when I got my divorce. It was a tattoo as a church girl, a Christian. My stepfather was a pastor. I think, you know what? It was a disgrace.
Yeah.
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 No, we understand.
And
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I wanted to clarify that. So I wanted to clarify. So I
Thank you.
didn't mean somebody to go 5 years. Okay? 5 years without dating or having somebody. That was my choice. Okay?
Thank you, Manny.
We got it. Thank you,
We
ma'am.
appreciate you.
Love you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
It's still a long time.
It's still a long time, but I'm glad she clears not
But
as
yeah,
long as.
It's not as long.
Yeah.
But again, just like we said before, it all depends on
Yeah.
the person.
Different strokes for
Right.
different folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What else
So,
you got before
well,
we move
so-
into?
Is it mutually fulfilling?
Well, gosh.
Again, I guess.
I mean, it all
depends.
depends.
Yeah.
It all depends on if both people are aligned with the
Mhm.
same goal.
Yeah. What are
Right.
your relationship goals?
What are your relationship
Yeah.
goals? If you just want to, it all depends on where each one is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
What if the other person, one is coming out of a relationship that ended not so good,
Yeah.
right? And the other one hadn't been in a relationship
In 5 years.
in 5 years. So I mean, you just have to figure it out.
complicated.
But that's where we're going to talk about tips with dealing with situationships. The first one, we already talked about this already ad nauseum during the course of the show, is communicate.
Yes. You have
Openly discuss your needs and expectations
Yes,
and your
upfront.
intentions. Check in regularly to avoid misunderstandings and the other D word. Drama.
Oh, can't do the drama. And yeah, speak up.
Yeah.
Speak up.
Yeah.
Let that other person know where you stand, what you want, and where you're wanting this relationship to go.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
expect that other person to read your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of it depends on maturity. Back in my day, I was mature, but there's some areas where I maybe wasn't mature in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so perhaps I could have told that young lady.
Hey, I just want you for your
But she
body.
knew though. Actually, you know what? She knew.
That her body's with you, but your mind was
She
somewhere else.
knew.
How did she know? By your actions.
Yes.
You didn't
And
tell
she
her.
knew it. Yes.
Some people are just delusional, and I think she was hoping she could change you.
Well, there were no breadcrumbs
Yeah.
sprinkled.
No,
I'll tell you.
so you didn't mislead her or anything. Oh, Miss Angela, yes, communication.
Communication.
Yes, we opened up
Yes.
about that, and healing is very important. And that's how you deal with getting out of a situationship. Once you get out of it, don't jump into something 3 months later. Give yourself some time to breathe.
Yeah, get out of the
And
pool,
heal.
dry yourself off, put some sunscreen on, right? Put on a different bathing suit before you jump back into the pool.
Because you may have been sunburned and you've got to treat the sunburn.
That's right. That's
Some-
right.
Some healing ointment.
That's right. Yeah, get some extra virgin olive oil.
That's right.
Another tip for dealing with situationships, we talked about this earlier as well, is set boundaries.
Yes.
Determine what is okay and what is not okay, from visitation
That's
to
right.
phone calls to
Yes.
in the boudoir as it relates to safety, because safe sex,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
That counts for a lot nowadays,
It sure does.
right? You don't want that ninja,
Yeah.
right?
You get some.
want that
you can't
ninja
get
on
rid
your
of.
back.
Yeah.
So you also have to look at that as well. Communicate how
Yes.
that's going to play out, especially if it's a sexual situationship, because there's different types of situationships,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so you want to make sure that you're safe, because you don't want to give some luggage to somebody else that they don't want.
That's right. Yes. Yes. You got to talk about that, and don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself.
Producer Malcolm want to chime in. Talk to us, brother.
I have a question to the panel and to the listening audience. This is a two-pronged question, and I know we're running out of time, but we can go a little over. That's okay.
Okay.
My two-pronged question is what do you say, Coach Rowe and CJ, to those who say that marriage certificates are just pieces of paper. We're in this relationship, we're together, and so on and so forth, whatever their explanation is after that. Now, the second prong to the question is, what do you say to those people who have been in long-term relationships? I hear the callers are saying 5 or 10 years or whatever. What do you say to those people who've been in long-term relationships, but it's all about them, their businesses, they go everywhere together, they vacation together, they raising kids together.
Yeah.
Is it really necessary? Now, I know you're going to say, well, that comes to communication. I know that's what you're going to say. But what happens if, like you said, CJ, what if you say, what if one of them says, well, I'm not, I wasn't mature enough I didn't think we needed to talk about it. It was a given.
Sure.
We're together. So,
Well, let me address your first prong there, Malcolm. As far as marriage being a certificate, a piece of paper. Now, to be sure, I am not holier than thou. However, I know the God that I serve. So my marriage certificate is more than just a piece of paper. It is rooted in His Word, right? So I'll say that for me, right? And so it is more than just a piece of paper. It is supposed to be a lifetime commitment, right? And I understand sometimes things happen, right, that may not have it a lifetime commitment. I just I was in Florida recently for my sweet and tender voice aunt sister, and her and her husband was married for 61 years.
Wow.
61 years. Now, to
Soulmate.
be sure,
Yeah.
they've had some complications in the marriage, but Malcolm just alluded to it, communication, but also they were Christians, right?
Yeah, that's important.
And they worked things out, whatever they had to work out or what have you. So that's what I would say about the marriage certificate. Coach Rogan.
Yeah, I mean, marriage is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It definitely is. So, I mean, I'm divorced now, but I'm still open to getting married again, and I'm sure I will get married again one day when I meet my Boaz and the person that I am equally yoked with. And so I think too, it does come down to expectations and what do you guys both want, because one person may want to get married, the other person doesn't, and that's you can't really compromise on that. Either you both want to get married and move in the same direction, or you don't, because you've got to row in the same direction. You've got to have the same vision for your future, equally yoked. And if that's not the case, why try to force something and try to say, oh, I can change her mind or change his mind? It may not work. Now you've invested another 5 years into something that's just not going anywhere. So it's important too to get that communication, to get that clarity up front about where do you see this relationship in the next 2 to 5 years. And if marriage is not on his or her mind, you may want to go in a different direction.
You probably need to go in a different direction.
But some people do change their minds. You can pray about it and maybe go to some counseling. Some people do change their minds about marriage. I've met some people who have said initially they didn't want to get married, and then a year and a half, 2 years, they wind up coming to their senses and changing their mind and getting married. So now that does happen. That's not with everybody, but anything's possible with God.
And then Malcolm, to address that other part, both have to be aligned. You really do, especially if you're going now in separate directions. You have to be aligned. You have to communicate. One may not want to be willing to communicate, and we get that.
Yeah,
we get that. But all you can do is fight to communicate to the best of your ability, and fight to be as harmonious as possible. Right. Because you can't control the other person and how they're going to react, how they're going to feel, or what have you, because everyone is going to feel differently. Yeah. So, but you just have to continue to fight to communicate, to be as harmonious and be respectful. And that's right. You want to protect your peace. Yes. Back to not having any drama. No more drama. Right. We've got too much of that going on in our world. Right. So we need some peace and harmony. And if you guys do have all these entanglements and, you're going on trips and doing a lot of things together, again, at the end of the day, all that's great, but do you really have a future together? Are you guys really on the same course
in terms of the wavelength and what you want to do in life together.
Yeah.
Right? Being married is about togetherness, two become one. So if that's not your vision and that's not what's in your heart or on your mind, you really need to break away from that, because you're going to invest all this time and it's just not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Now,
So-
another tip for dealing with situationships as far as the breakup end is, even if it's casual, you both deserve, we just talked about this, respect for your time and also intimacy.
Yeah.
So you have to value one another, regardless if it's a relationship or a situationship. You have to have that value placed, and it has to be equal.
It has to be.
It has to be
Yes.
equal. Now, it may not start out as equal, but hopefully it'll get to the point of equality for both, right?
Yeah, it has to be. Back to what's mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
If it's only working to someone's advantage but not the other person's advantage, it's not mutual. Again, back to being one-sided deal. That's not good. Back to the manipulation and control that starts creeping in.
Yeah.
So that's very toxic and very unhealthy.
Yeah. Another tip is to have a support system, because family and friends can offer advice and perspective and can provide emotional support. Because when you're coming out of a relationship versus a situationship, they're different. They're different, because a relationship, more of your heart, entanglement, perhaps with finances and maybe even children are present. But with situationships,
but they can emotionally be the same. So you may not have as many entanglements as far as finances and children, but you can be in love with someone in a situationship. So they can both bring a lot of pain.
well, that's true. However,
It's easier to get out of a situation.
it is easier.
Yeah.
Because you may not, again, your emotions and your feelings would not be as, and there's a song called "Anchored in the Lord." It may not be anchored in that situationship with that person, right? Now, you're gonna really love this last one. Yeah, because we had a good time on this one.
Oh, we got a
what
comment.
have we got before we get to tip number 5?
We have, I hope I don't mispronounce his name, his or her name, but it's CXZRTS. Certs. I'm going to say Certs says
The certificate is good for the symbolism of the marriage.
Well, yes. That's
And it's,
yes. I mean, that's common, but it's just more than a piece of paper, or a piece of paper, as Malcolm alluded to and talked about. Is much more than that. But yes, it is a symbolism, because that's how you certify, right? The marriage.
It's legalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Angela, do you think people who are not married legally feel it's easier to walk away from a relationship? I do. And I think, too, that maybe why some people don't want the marriage, because, again, in most states, you're getting 50-50. You're getting half. So you're splitting the assets. So even from a financial perspective, a lot of people don't want that entanglement versus just if you're just hanging out or, dating. After a few years, it's easier just to kind of move on and walk away.
Well, I mean, it all depends. Yes and no. Yes, because maybe there's not much involved, right? But maybe no, it depends upon how long you were in that relationship for.
And feelings and emotions are both equally weighted.
Just like we talked about when Attorney Gordon was on the show. You can have, quote unquote, that common law, where you can be with that person for 10, 15 years. And it seems as if you're married, but you're not. Now, and it can still get some legal entanglements with that. Now, tip number 5 in dealing with situationships: be honest.
Yes, you have to.
If you're no longer feeling that person,
be honest.
Be honest.
Yes.
If your feelings are getting deeper than what you thought they were going to be,
be honest.
Be honest.
How deep is your love?
How deep is your love?
Yes.
Yeah, so be honest.
And what's that song? Situation number 9 is blowing my mind. I mean, come on now. It can really, really take you to a whole nother level. So you've got to put some brakes on it if you see things are spiraling out of control. Yes.
Coach Rowe, take us out.
Oh my goodness. And finally, I want to say get closure. Right. Back to how we started this whole conversation from the top of the show.
Yeah.
Communication is key. So that does it for us, guys. But what's really important is about what you are looking for, and are your needs being met, and are your needs being served by the other person. So we talk about the pros and cons of the situationship. It can work for you. We're not trying to discourage you, but if it's not mutually beneficial, then why stay in something why stay in something that you are going to be unhappy, unfulfilled, miserable, and not mentally and spiritually where you need to be. So it's best to just move on from that. And so emotionally, it's very important to make sure that emotionally your needs are being met.
Yes.
And spiritually your needs are being met.
Yes.
And you have the power, because my whole show is about empowerment. You have the power to end it, to get out of it. You don't have to stay in a situation that is not pleasing or is not healthy for you.
PYP, protect your
Some
peace.
are hopeless romantics. That's true.
Yes.
So instead of ghosting someone or being ghosted, just talk about it and be real and just move on.
Yeah.
So, and cut it off. That's pretty much it. Snip, like you did. Don't snip the wrong thing.
Cut that thing.
Cut the relationship, not something else. But that does it for us, guys. Thanks again. We love you. Be sure to follow us and like us on social media. And we will see you next time.
Yes, and one parting thing: if you can be of assistance to someone who is going from the coming out of the aftermath of burial, be a blessing to someone who cannot bless you back.
Yes, and call the church if you need help. We're here for you.